Welcome to the Big Game Hunting Podcast, where we help hunters like you prepare for the big game hunting adventures you've always dreamed of. Now, here's your host, John McAdams.
Hello, John McAdams here, and you are listening to episode 363 of the Big Game Hunting Podcast. How would you like it if you could find a hunting rifle that shoots accurately without an extensive barrel break-in, is lightweight and easy to carry, contains a bunch of premium features, and comes in at under $2,000? Well, the Bergara B14 Squared Crest Carbon might just fit the bill in all of those areas. I have had the opportunity to spend quite a bit of time at the range shooting two different Crest Carbon rifles over the course of about the last year. So in this episode, I conduct a detailed analysis of the Bergara Crest Carbon, where I tell you all about this rifle so you can make an informed decision regarding whether or not it fits your needs as a hunter. Before we get into that, I would greatly appreciate it if you would take just a few minutes to complete a listener survey of the Big Game Hunting Podcast and provide some feedback about the show. What you like about it, what topics you want covered in the future, what guests you want to see on the show, etc. Your responses will help me plan future episodes to help me give you what you want more of in the future. Everyone who completes the survey by 23 March will be entered in a random drawing for a $50 Cabela's gift card. Link for the survey is in the show notes. Also, make sure you are on my email list. If you like the podcast, you will love the emails I send out every weekday about hunting, shooting, ballistics, etc. Sign up at the other link in the show notes or at biggamehuntingpodcast.com/ebook. Okay, let's talk about the Bergara Crest Carbon rifle. Bergara released their initial version of the Crest rifle, or the Squared Crest rifle, in 2023. That rifle had a steel barrel. I will refer to that as the Crest Steel. In 2024, they released another iteration of that rifle that is otherwise identical but has a carbon fiber barrel they called the Crest Carbon. Bergara designed their Crest series of rifles to bridge a gap between their lower-tier Wilderness family, to include the newer Sierra rifle on one hand, and the more expensive Premier family on the other hand. The Crest Carbon fits into a similar use case as Bergara's Wilderness Sierra I like so much, but the Crest Carbon has a few extra bells and whistles, is lighter, is a little bit more compact, and is also more expensive relative to the Sierra. Now, I have shot two different Crest Carbon rifles in two different chamberings. I have one in 22-250 Remington, and I've shot another one in 6.5 Creedmoor at the Bergara Academy in Wyoming during the summer of 2024. So first, I'll hit the highlights of the specifications and features on the rifle, then we'll dive into some more details. All rifles in the Crest series have a carbon fiber stock, a Cerakote finish on all the metal parts of the rifles. They use AICS-style detachable magazines. They have a fluted bolt using the B14 action from Bergara and a Bergara performance trigger. The Crest Steel rifles have a chromoly steel barrel. The Crest Carbon rifles have a Cure carbon fiber barrel. These rifles are available in 22-250, 6.5 Creedmoor, 308, 6.5 PRC, 7 PRC, and 300 Win Mag. Barrel lengths are either 20 inches or 22 inches. Barrel lengths and available chamberings are the same in both the Crest Carbon and Crest Steel rifles. All of these rifles also come with Bergara's omnidirectional muzzle brake. It's really easy to remove if you want to take it off. Have a 5/8 by 24 thread pattern so you can run a suppressor on it. Piece of cake. So I shot the Crest Carbon in 6.5 Creedmoor at the Bergara Academy in Wyoming off of a bench at targets between 500 and 1,000 yards away. I was very impressed with the accuracy of that rifle in Wyoming. Now, like I mentioned, I also have one that I have shot extensively here in Texas in 22-250. I've been using it in a lot of side-by-side comparisons with the 22 Creedmoor, the 22 ARC 223 Remington. I also used that in a video I put on YouTube where I was testing the performance of different chronographs, of the Garmin versus the Lab Radar versus the magnetospeed versus a couple of traditional optical chronographs. I needed a rifle that would shoot a really high velocity cartridge for that video. Will the 22-250 fit the bill? Since I got it for that, I've continued to use it and test it out along these lines as well. I have shot the 22-250 Crest Carbon out to 500 yards at the range close to where I live. And that rifle really shoots Hornady VMAX bullets super accurately. And I was getting impressive accuracy all the way out to 500 yards with that loading. Now, those bullets don't do great in the wind. They're super low BC, even though they're going really fast. But once I got my wind hold figured out, I was able to bang those targets all the way out to 500 yards and keep a pretty impressive group all the way out that far. I'll talk more about the details of how this rifle shoots a couple of different loads in a minute, but bottom line up front, accuracy is great for the two rifles I have shot. Now, that all starts with a good barrel. Bergara makes great barrels. I've shot Bergara rifles on lots of CVA muzzleloaders, everything from their entry-level Wolf up to their premium-level Paramount. I've done that for a long time. I've also shot a bunch of different Bergara centerfire rifles with a couple of different barrel styles. Though those rifles have not been without flaws in other areas, they all shot very well. Bergara started offering their new Cure Carbon barrels a couple years ago. Without going into too much detail, they have more information online if you want to check it out. Those Cure Carbon barrels seem to provide the best of both traditional steel and carbon fiber barrels. They don't seem to heat up as fast as a traditional carbon barrel. They seem to cool quicker after they get hot. They don't seem to have significant changes in point of impact or in dispersion as they heat up either. Plus, they are also really light. Now, like I mentioned, Bergara makes a Crest steel rifle, exactly the same as the Crest Carbon, just with a steel barrel. You can get the Bergara Cure Carbon barrels in some of their other lineups if you want to. It's available in the MG Light, the MG Microlight, their Premier Divide. There's also a Ridge Carbon and an HMR Carbon. All of those rifles utilize vastly different body styles, but all have a Cure Carbon barrel, just like the Crest Carbon. Now, the Crest Carbon combines that lightweight carbon barrel with a lightweight carbon stock. I have mentioned previously that I have hunted with a Bergara Wilderness Terrain in 6.5 Creedmoor. That rifle shot great, but it was heavy with a capital H, especially for a hunting rifle. Bergara's Wilderness Sierra is lighter than the Wilderness Terrain. The Crest Steel is lighter than the Sierra. The Crest Carbon is lighter than the Crest Steel. So here's an example. The Wilderness Terrain in 6.5 Creedmoor was 9.3 pounds slick. Unloaded, no scope, no sling, any of that stuff, just the base rifle. The Sierra is 7.4 pounds in that exact same configuration, so almost 2 pounds lighter. The Crest Steel is 6.9 pounds in that configuration, so a half pound lighter than the Sierra. The Crest Carbon is 6.2 pounds. Now, I gave you all of those weights for rifles in 6.5 Creedmoor. The weights will vary a little bit for different chamberings in those rifles, but for instance, the 300 Win Mag version of the Crest Carbon is the heaviest at just 6.5 pounds slick, though. So, long story short, the Crest Carbon is quite a bit lighter than the Sierra and especially the Wilderness Terrain. Now, my Crest Carbon in 22-250 weighed 9.5 pounds with a full setup. VX5 HD 3-15 by 44 millimeter scope, Banish backcountry suppressor, full magazine, 5 rounds of 22-250, ultimate firearm sling, and a Spartan guide adapter. That drops down to 8.9 pounds if you remove the suppressor and you replace it with the muzzle brake. You could very easily trim down some additional weight by going with a lighter scope, right? The VX5 HD is a pretty big hunting scope. You can get lighter scope rings. You can get rid of the Spartan adapter, stuff like that. But remember, those weights I just gave you, 8.9 and 9.5 pounds, are like how I would actually carry this rifle afield on a hunt. I'm not giving you a stripped down weight in a configuration no one will ever use. Even with the scope, a full magazine, a sling, a Spartan adapter, and even a darn suppressor, the Crest Carbon weighs about what the Wilderness Terrain does with nothing on it. And if you get rid of the suppressor, it's even lighter than the Wilderness Terrain. Now, like I mentioned earlier, Crest Carbon and Crest Steel, both available in 22-250, 6.5 Creedmoor, 6.5 PRC, 7mm PRC, 308, 300 Win Mag. Barrel lengths are 22 inches for 300 Win Mag and 7 PRC, 20 inches for all of the rest. The 22-250 versions of those rifles have a faster 1 in 9 inch twist rate. That is faster than the SAMI spec of 1 in 14 inches for the cartridge. It's not quite as fast as a 22 ARC or a 22 Creedmoor, though. They have 1 in 7 or 1 in 8 inch twist rates from SAMI, respectively. Now, the 308 Winchester version of the rifle has a 1 in 10 inch twist rate. Now, SAMI spec for 308 is 1 in 12 inches. All of the other chamberings have standard SAMI twist rates. 1 in 8 for the 6.5 Creed, 6.5 PRC, and 7 PRC, and 1 in 10 inches for the 300 Win Mag. Now, like I mentioned earlier, Crest Steel has exactly the same chamberings, barrel lengths, and twist rates as the Crest Carbon that I just described. The rifle is a little bit heavier. Weight ranges from 6.9 to 7.3 pounds for it, depending on the chambering. There are no left-handed versions of the Crest or Crest Carbon at this instant. They all use a detachable AICS-style magazine. They have a 3-round capacity for the 6.5 PRC, 5 rounds for the other cartridges. The Crest rifles use standard Remington 700 mounting supplies. Bergara does sell their own rails. That's actually what I have on mine, but standard Remington 700 rails or bases will work as long as it uses 840 screws. Now, the Crest rifles have a foam-filled carbon fiber stock with a spine for rigidity. Now, the stock grip is vertical with a slight to moderate palm swell. The grip angle is really good, very comfortable for reaching the trigger without having to stretch or stress in any way, at least for someone my size. Now, the comb is high and has a slight negative slope. Now, the stock does not have an adjustable comb on it like the Sierra does, for instance, but I found that it was a good, comfortable height for me. The rifle has a mix of flush cup sling mounts and traditional quick release sling studs. There are 2 studs up front, 1 in the back, and there are front and rear flush cup mounts on both sides of the rifle. The rifle stock has a flat bottom on the forend for use on a bag. It works really well in that configuration. It would be cool to have an ARCA rail or something up front, but while that would be a nice feature, it would also drive up the price. I have found that the Spartan Precision guide adapter works really well for a bipod attachment point. It's not as rock solid as an ARCA rail, but it is good enough for my uses. This rifle has a fluted bolt, uses a typical push feed action like all of the Bergara B14 action rifles. This rifle was very reliable for me. I did not have any failures to feed or extract in either the 6.5 Creedmoor or the 22-250. I have probably about 100 rounds through the 6.5 Creedmoor version of the rifle and about 400 rounds through the 22-250. I cannot speak to how this rifle performs in any other chamberings, but I was impressed with the reliability for the 2 rifles I have shot. The bolt on this rifle operated really smooth right from the time I first received it. It's not sticky to open or close. Wasn't the case like that with either rifle with any ammo I have tried in it. The rifle has a 2-position safety just behind and to the right of the receiver. No complaints one way or another. Safety was easy to use. I had no problems reaching it, even shooting it left hand. Now, the safety does not lock the bolt when it is engaged. That can be a good or a bad thing depending on your personal preferences. The Bergara Crest Carbon rifles come with Bergara's performance adjustable trigger. It adjusts with an Allen screw just in front of the trigger, goes all the way down to about 2.5 pounds. Now, when you purchase this rifle, it comes with the rifle itself. There is a muzzle brake already attached on the barrel, and you get an instruction manual.
Attention sports enthusiasts, keep the adrenaline pumping and elevate your game day with Chumba Casino. It's completely free to play. No purchase necessary. Whether you're cheering from the stands, on the move, or relaxing at home, Chumba Casino brings the thrill of social casino directly to your fingertips. Experience the ultimate social casino adventure with reels of casino-style games, offering hundreds of exciting options to choose from and fresh new releases every week. There's always something new and thrilling to explore. From action-packed social slots, and classic blackjack to engaging bingo and solitaire, the fun never stops. Plus, enjoy generous daily login bonuses and a fantastic free welcome bonus to kickstart your social gaming journey. Dive into the excitement. Discover a world where you can play for your chance to redeem some serious prizes and have a blast along the way. Don't miss out. What are you waiting for? Join now and immerse yourself in nonstop fun and adventure with Chumba Casino. Get in on the action today at ChumbaCasino.com and make every day a Chumba day. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus TNC supply.
Okay, now let's talk about the accuracy of this rifle. Like I mentioned earlier, I've shot 2 different versions of this rifle in 6.5 Creedmoor, one in 22-250. The 6.5 Creedmoor did great with 147 grain ELD match bullets from the Hornady match line. I shot off a bench from 500 to 1,000 yards. It shot outstanding. I was very happy with how it performed. That was the only load I shot in it, though. I have shot several different loads in the 22-250, though. First one was the 35 grain NTX loading from the Hornady Superformance line, the 50 grain VMAX also from the Hornady Superformance line, the 55 grain VMAX from their Varmint Express line, a 50 grain Barnes TSX from the Barnes Vortex line, and a 64 grain Winchester PowerPoint from their PowerPoint line. I also shot a custom hand load from Copper Creek with the new Hornady 62 grain ELD VT bullet. Now remember, this rifle has a faster 1 and 9 inch twist rate. So first up, that 35 grain NTX shot like hot garbage out of this rifle. Absolutely terrible accuracy. I had a really hard time even getting it on paper at 50 yards. But I think that was because this rifle was spinning a lot of those bullets apart in flight. This is a super, super high velocity loading. And like I mentioned, I wanted something really fast to test all of those chronographs on when I did my work along those lines in the summer of 2024. My lab radar never returned a good velocity for the 35 grain NTX bullets because it was probably just going so darn fast. I measured about 4,100 feet per second, though, with my MagnetoSpeed and Garmin. You take that velocity, combine it with that fast 1 and 9 inch twist rate, that works out to about 328,000 rotations per minute. That is well within the danger zone for a really thinly jacketed bullet like that. That's a super lightweight, super high velocity, lead-free bullet. It has a very thin copper jacket with a frangible copper core. Very, very light, going very, very fast. It is definitely on the margins for what someone might use in a 22-250. That is actually one of the fastest factory loads available in the world right now. If you shoot that out of a 22-250 with, say, a 1 and 14 inch twist rate, at that same velocity, you'll be getting 210,000 RPM. So that should not cause any problems. But shoot it out of that fast twist barrel like I have, and you can have some problems, like I did. That's the bad news. The good news is this rifle absolutely loved the 50 grain and 55 grain VMAX loads, though. Those are much more commonly used varmint loads. Now remember, this rifle, even though it has a faster twist rate, has a shorter barrel, 20 inches instead of 24 inches or even 26 inches, like is pretty common for the 22-250. Almost every company advertises their velocities for factory loads with a 24-inch barrel. So everything I shot out of this rifle was going slower than advertised because I was shooting it out of a rifle with a barrel 4 inches shorter than advertised. But some of this stuff was still going really darn fast. Hornady advertises 4,000 feet per second for their 50 grain VMAX in the Superformance line. I was getting about 3,900 feet per second with that ammo. So that's about 25 feet per second of velocity lost per inch of barrel. Now, this rifle shot great right out of the box, did not require an extensive break-in process. Now, since I was going back and forth between copper and lead core ammo, I did thoroughly clean the bore when I went between different ammo types, just so I was starting off with the same baseline. But I didn't do the whole shoot 3 shots, clean the bore, shoot 3 shots, clean the bore, or any of that stuff like some companies want you to do when shooting their rifles. But anyway, that 50 grain VMAX delivered outstanding accuracy. It was actually the best load I shot in this rifle. Wonderful performance, top-notch choice for coyote hunting with a 22-250 in general, especially from this rifle. For reference, I shot a .53 inch 5-shot group at 100 yards with this stuff. Now, the 55 grain VMAX also shot great. Another excellent choice for coyote hunting. It was not going as fast as the 50 grain VMAX. It actually also lost more velocity per inch as well. Advertised velocity, 3680 feet per second for this stuff. I was getting 3393 feet per second on average with this stuff. That's actually 71 feet per second per inch of barrel. Accuracy was also outstanding, 0.77 inch 5-shot group at 100 yards. Now, I also shot the 50 grain Barnes TSX load. Accuracy was good, but not quite as good as the VMAX bullet. Not bad at all, though. This stuff was pretty darn fast. Advertised at 3830 feet per second, it was going 3590 out of this rifle. That's about 60 feet per second per inch of barrel lost. This would be my personal choice if I were hunting deer with this rifle with a 22-250. 0.94 inch 5-shot group at 100 yards with this stuff. Winchester's 64 grain PowerPoint load also shot pretty well for me. This is another good choice for deer hunting if you're going to be using this cartridge. I prefer the Barnes. Nothing wrong with the PowerPoint ammo here, though. Advertised velocity of 3,500 feet per second. This stuff was doing 3165. That's about 84 feet per second per inch of barrel lost. 0.875 inch 5-shot group at 100 yards. Now, the 62 grain ELD VT bullet is not normally available as a factory load for the 22-250. That is a new bullet Hornady released in conjunction with the new 22 ARC. Now, the 22 ARC utilizes a really fast 1 7 inch twist rate. So I ran the numbers for this bullet on the Berger online stability calculator using a 1 9 inch twist rate and a velocity I thought this bullet would achieve out of my rifle. It said it would just be barely stable. Now, not only does this bullet require a faster twist rate than the 1 14 inch that is normally typical for the 22-250, but it's so long that this hand load I got from Copper Creek actually had an overall length of 2.5 inches. That is longer than the normal SAMI spec of 2.35 inches for the 22-250. I will say, though, that this ammo functioned fine in the rifle. Now, this rifle uses a 6.5 Creedmoor length magazine. That's normally a sticking point for some of the older 22-250 rifles where the darn bullet is just too long to fit in the magazine, but not a problem here. It also seemed to shoot okay out of this rifle as well. Nothing earth-shattering, and it definitely had the quote-unquote worst accuracy out of everything I tested in it, but it wasn't bad. 1.035 inch 5-shot group at 100 yards with this stuff. Copper Creek advertised 3,500 feet per second. I got 3,250 on average for this stuff. So that's about 62.5 foot per second loss of velocity per inch of barrel. So while the performance of that really lightweight, really fast 35 grain NTX was a downside of the faster twist rate of this rifle in 22-250, the ability of this rifle to use a more modern bullet like the 62 grain ELD VT is an upside of that rifle design. I don't know about you, but I would definitely take that trade. If I hunted in California where I had to use lead-free varmint ammo, I might feel different, but I don't. Like I mentioned earlier, the high-quality barrel on this rifle is a big part of the outstanding accuracy I achieved for the most part with it, just with that one exception. Those barrels just tend to shoot. Putting aside the 35 grain NTX, we're still dealing with several very different loads here. We have a couple of lighter weight, stumpy varmint bullets in the 50 and 55 grain NTX. We have a much longer and higher BC varmint bullet with the 62 grain ELD VT. We have a heavy-ish for caliber for the 22-250 cup and core bullet with the PowerPoint. And then we have that lighter, solid copper 50 grain Barnes bullet. Every single one of those loads shot either below MOA or just slightly worse than MOA in the case of the ELD VT. That's pretty darn impressive. The 6.5 Creedmoor version of this rifle also shot great. My other rifles I have shot with the Cure carbon barrel also shot well with a variety of ammo too. These barrels also tend to cool down quickly when they get hot, And like I mentioned, they don't have a major point of impact shift when the barrel heats up either. Now, the Crest rifles have shorter barrel lengths. There are pros and cons associated with doing that. On the con side, you have a loss of velocity, especially with a hot rod like the 22-250. That loss in velocity will probably be less apparent with other cartridges. For what it's worth, I obtained an average velocity of 25.75 for the 6.5 Creedmoor with the 147 ELD match. They advertised 26.95. That rifle also has a 20-inch barrel, but that's just 120 feet per second slow, or about 30 feet per second per inch. So yeah, you lose velocity with, say, a 6.5 Creedmoor. Not terrible, though. On the flip side, though, having a shorter barrel makes the whole rifle lighter, more compact, easier to handle. It's also nice to use with a suppressor. You take one of these rifles with a 20-inch long barrel, pop a short suppressor on it, like a Banished Backcountry, and you have a barrel that is just barely over 25 inches long with a suppressor attached. This is an excellent choice for maneuvering a rifle in a tight space. And by the way, did I mention it is light? It is just over 1.5 pounds lighter than the Bergara Sierra in 7 PRC that I have. And I did not consider that rifle excessively heavy. I would not classify the Crest Carbon as an ultra lightweight hunting rifle, but it is certainly a lightweight hunting rifle. It's not a competition rifle. You won't be setting any bench rest records with it, but this rifle will still fricking shoot. If you want to go super lightweight, then go with something like an MG Microlight. That trims about another 0.5 pound off the Crest Carbon. If you want something heavier for precision shooting, then get something like a Bergara competition rifle. But if you want a great lightweight hunting rifle that's easy to carry up the mountain and will still shoot great, well, the Crest Carbon is a darn good choice, and I really like it. This rifle does have a lot of premium features that is reflected in the MSRP of $2,099 as I record this in early 2025. That's MSRP, so you can get it for less, especially during a seasonal sale, for instance. Usually comes in for less than $2,000 off the shelf, though. For what it's worth, the Crest Steel retails for $1,799, so about $300 less than the Crest Carbon. It's up to you to decide if that $300 for a carbon barrel is worth it, because the rifles are otherwise identical. This is definitely not a budget or entry-level rifle, but it's also not quite up into that semi-custom or custom rifle price tier yet either. I think it compares favorably to other rifles at a similar price point, and it blows away a lot of the less expensive rifles out there. So to recap, Bergara markets the Crest Carbon as an upper mid-tier all-purpose hunting rifle. I think it's great in that role. It is a wonderful choice for use in a deer stand because it's so lightweight and compact, but those same features also make it especially well-suited, for instance, for an elk hunt or a mule deer hunt in the high country. And that Cerakote finish and carbon fiber stock also means you could hunt in wet conditions without worrying about the stock warping from moisture or having the barrel or action start to rust on you. This rifle would also be a good choice to take up on a hunt for something, say, like mountain goat or sheep too, especially in a more stripped-down configuration. Now, if you would like a Bergara Crest for yourself, I have arranged with Bergara for an exclusive promo code you can use when shopping on the Bergara website. Yes, you can buy a rifle directly from them. They'll ship to your local FFL. Using this code will get you 10% off any purchase directly from Bergara on any of their rifles and accessories, to include the Bergara Crest Steel and Crest Carbon. Click the link in the show notes or go to thebiggamehuntingblog.com/Bergara. Enter your contact information there so I can send the promo code to you and so you can get one of these awesome rifles at a discount. Don't forget to take the show survey either by 23 March 2025 to let me know what you want to hear from me on the podcast in the future. Link is in the show notes. Remember, you can make your dream hunt turn into a reality, and I can help. Thanks for listening. I'll see you back here next time on the Big Game Hunting Podcast.
This show may be over, but we have plenty more for you on our website. For more information on today's topic, as well as lots of other useful hunting resources, head over to the BigGameHuntingBlog.com. We look forward to having you back for the next episode. But until then, happy hunting.